Uh, okay, I'm there. I'm there. I've got audio. Oh my god. Yes, this is turning into a hot tub stream. Yeah, just gonna. Yeah. No. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the YouTube VOD, welcome to Loreweek. Super summary. The thing I want everyone to weigh in on, I will make a poll, but anybody who watches the VOD and who responds in the YouTube comments of that, which I know is several of you, um, so the Lorecraft series, which is currently going live every week, every Sunday morning. I have a possibility once I finish it. This will not happen until I'm done. Obviously, I'm currently in the middle of Wrath. But once I am done with everything that I'm going to be done to, which is probably through and including Legion, the possibility exists to just kind of dump everything. To just, as in, make it all go live in one bundle, ergo, binging. The ability to go ahead and binge the entirety of the Lorecraft series in one go. There's a lot of reasons to do that. It references itself constantly. There's a lot of small world stuff. There's a lot of continuity stuff. Otherwise, we'll just keep having it go live every Sunday morning, which is the weekly option. So I'm going to go ahead and put together that poll for the YouTube VOD. Please let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Now, I had to close my Loreweek notes in the middle of all that, so give me just a moment. Other lore news that is relevant. HOAs can go to hell. Poison Ivy can go to hell. I got my first Pfizer shot. My arm's still a little sore. No other detriments. Next one's going to be in June. By popular request, I have decided not to axe any of the Spike Chunsoft games because you all keep asking me not to. And that's the reason. Now, whatever. You know, I'm willing to bend on this. It is a hill that I am willing to concede on, because it's not like I'm winning anyways, right? However, anyone who suggests any new Spike Chunsoft games going forward, no. Banned henceforth. I guess that's actually it as far as the super summary. So let's go ahead and hit 2. It's not like I disagree with that, Velvetrix. I was actually considering doing that anyways, to be completely honest. Now, Lore Reloaded, it continues to be awesome. Several people keep asking about the Trek Rewrite project. Don't worry, that is absolutely still going to happen. To explain in brief why it isn't happening right now. Would you rather that while I'm in the middle of 3 other projects and currently trying to push out a thing which is going to take me a little over a month in order to be done and done with it, also be stretching myself even thinner to kind of barely not really work on yet another project which will also delay the current projects? Or would you rather that we get everything in line and dealt with so that the queue is more empty so that we can start working on the Star Trek project more regularly and with more focus going forwards? This is a redundant question. You don't get a choice in the matter. That's why the Trek Rewrite project is on pause right now, but it is on pause, not canceled. Random news. Konami has actually decided to put out a new game. This is really strange because it's actually the Konami developers, which is... I don't even know what to make of that, to be completely honest with you. It's called Getsu Fumaden Undying Moon. It's in alpha, or not alpha, I guess it is alpha. It's in early access right now. I don't even know what to make of that. It looks terrible, to be completely honest, but that's because I don't care for the art style or the stuff. It's a roguelite. Yeah, I'm curious how many thousands of... No, I know, Rex. It's going to be in June. Thankfully, I won't be streaming then. I don't know anything about how ridiculously many microtransactions they're going to dump on its face, so I suppose we'll see going forwards. Meanwhile... I don't remember the names right now. I'll have a link to this in the VOD, obviously. But yet another Blizzard dev has left Blizzard, along with several Epic devs, who have founded their own company called Lightforge Games, which they are currently working on a game right now. No details whatsoever. The thing I find interesting about this, more than anything else, is the fact that they have not decided to join the Morhaime crew. I don't know why, and I can only speculate, but it'll be interesting to see what they go with. Thank you very much, as always, Doom Rider. I do much appreciate. And I do appreciate your sub as well, Mr. Reloaded, even though you're probably here just to meme. You are nevertheless awesome. Thank you. I don't want to be cranky. Irritable enough as is. And both of those are going towards lower choice. And not Mech Commander. I actually could talk about hot tub streaming as a legitimate topic. I'm not going to. I looked into it recently because a friend of mine was looking into it because he was confused as hell about what it was. And I'm like, okay, let's explain this so that he understands. And he was like, that sounds really boring, to which my response was, yeah. And that drifted into a discussion about Pornhub. And as a fresh reminder, yes, if all else goes bad, I will be streaming on Pornhub, so that's neat. Meme and joke all you want, it really is the only other option. WoW Classic has done a thing. This, I don't even know why I'm mentioning this. I guess it's because MMO financial stuff is weird. Let me explain this a little bit. Right now, this coming week, I believe, Burning Crusade Classic is going live. It's pretty soon, something like that. And as a direct consequence, yeah, Pornhub already has non-porn sections. That's where I would be, obviously. But Burning Crusade Classic is going live very soon. I think it's this week. I have lost track. Please forgive me. What's funny is this Lorecrafts series is going to be covering BC while BC Classic is live. That is coincidental, but it's amusing as always. So, the big thing is goal, Valvadrix? The big thing to mention about this is you can just convert your existing vanilla character into a BC character. Just hit a button and you are then flagged for having BC. If you want to keep being in vanilla but also want to be in BC with the same character, they have what they call a cloning service. Now, what this does is it exactly what it sounds like. It takes a snapshot of your character from when you activate the service, and then this character continues to be over here in vanilla, and this character continues to be over here in BC. Sense, mate? Now, this is being charged for. Allow me to say something strange in that I agree with that. Because there's no... Exactly right. It's the goal to be streaming on. Thank you, Scant. The reason I bring this up is charging for this makes a degree of sense as a method of control, for lack of a better way to put it. Trying to put some kind of limiter on this situation is the kind of thing I would do too. Now, how much of a limiter that is, the exact price, that's a little bit trickier. I do actually think that $15 is a bit too much. I forget the original amount. It was way more. The original amount was like quite a bit more than it currently is, which was incredibly unacceptable. But the point is, what you want from a business side of the things is you want a dollar amount that is not completely insignificant, but is not too much as, for lack of a better way to put it, a barrier for this service, right? To prevent people from just doing it randomly and saying, well, why not, or sure, or changing their mind, or cloning them multiple times, or all sorts of other things that are just going to clog it up and make it take up unnecessary space on the server. Now, I'm not saying that that space is particularly expensive. I'm saying that that does bog things down, and there really is no need for that kind of stuff to be in the database. So having a limiter there makes sense. Now, if you have it be way too cheap, like if they charged how much it actually costs, see you around, Spartan, like, say, a penny, or if we want to be ridiculous, if we wanted to be not completely ridiculous, if they charged like $1 for this, it effectively wouldn't be a barrier to entry, because nobody thinks twice about spending $1 unless they're in a particularly bad situation at a point in time. Putting it at 15, which I believe, I should double check this. I think it's 15. Hang on, I have the link here, which I'll be putting in the VOD. Yep, 15. I'm right. So, excuse me, it's 15 pounds. however much that is. Putting the original amount was ridiculously too high. $15 is still too high. And this is why I'm actually talking about this rather than just saying this is good or this is bad. Because the whole point is that this is a more nuanced situation than most people seem to be reporting on, which is why I'm saying it thusly. Most people are just like, have it be 0, or it's too little, or whatever. It should $5 is probably a good amount. That's probably the dollar amount I would put on a service like this, because that's just enough that people will think about it before they do it, which is the goal of the barrier to begin with. But $5 is not that much money, because it really does not actually cost them anything to do this, right? I should probably also mention that their original amount of, I think it was 35. I don't actually have the number in front of me. Please forgive me. It was more. The original number was substantially too much, and the reason I bring that up is because they say in the actual post, which I'll be linking in the VOD, we're doing this because of player feedback. Can I just go ahead and say, and I mean no offense by this, but bullcrap. They absolutely planned this from the beginning. This is a way to try and garner public support by artificially doing something bad, and then for you, because we listen to you and because we pay attention to you, pulling it back from there. This is an extremely common tactic that a lot of companies do. And not just in the video game industry, but in general. Yeah, this is literally free PR, is what this is. So, that being said, I will admit that what I would have done is I probably would put up the $5 amount, like I already mentioned, and kind of gauge response and work from that. Do I think it's worked? Well, if I just look at the thread, I see lots of people saying, thank you for doing this, or hey, thank you for listening, or how generous you are, or this sounds amazing, thank you for that. I'm just reading the comments here. So I suppose that answers your question, Mr. Red. However, who can actually gauge the WoW audience? It is gargantuan. Try polling 1 million people about something and see how that works. Thank you, Federation Builder. I do try. I've been getting a lot of narration practice lately, which you probably haven't heard it yet, and that's because you're seeing the episodes I recorded like 3 weeks ago. But I've been getting a lot of speaking practice in lately because of how I've been recording the Lorecraft stuff. Hopefully you'll like it. I've kind of shifted off a little bit here. Anyways, so that's that. Meanwhile, Mass Effect Legendary Edition came out. I only mentioning this because people would probably wig out if I didn't mention it at all. There is no FOV for camera. There is an FOV mod already for the game, for anybody who wants to adjust that, so FYI, you can find it on the Nexus mods. Disco Elysium, damn it, I keep doing this in the wrong order, finally gets released and gets rated in Australia. That's actually a whole topic I could spend a huge amount of time discussing, but all I'm going to say right now is currently the 12, Mr. Red. The current method by which Australia approves of games is actually legitimately Byzantine to the point of being stupid. And as a direct consequence of such, it needs an overhaul, but obviously that's a low priority because it's just a... You know how it is, right? Something that needs fixed but is a low priority, so it just sits there and is bad. I mean, that applies in everyday life, for God's sakes. It took me forever to even test my PS3 controller. No, not this one, the other one. Just to make sure it actually worked, because it was so low priority. I finally just did it when I was waiting for a render to happen. It works, by the way. I got it working. Woo. But Disco Elysium has been actually rated, and now Australian people can play it, which is awesome. Kitase has been made the brand manager for Final Fantasy as a genre. I have no idea what that means. I would like to say that being the brand manager of Final Fantasy means that you are the mainliner, as I like to call it, for the entire Final Fantasy series, but considering the FFs don't connect to each other, that doesn't apply in the same way, so I have no idea what the purpose of that job is, or what it will be, or what the effect thereof will be. Kitase himself certainly does a lot of things that I disagree with, but he also seems to give enough of a damn that I'm kind of on board with that. You know, it's just kind of a, okay. It's also doubly strange because, to my knowledge, there's only 3 actual Final Fantasies going live right now. There's Final Fantasy XIV, we'll talk about that in a second, Final Fantasy XVI, which is over there doing its own thing, and FF7R2, which will be coming out at some distant point in the future. No idea where they're going with that or how that means, or any of the impact on this whatsoever. Which leads us to FF14. Those of you not aware, the FF14 FanFest, I think, just ended. But has been going since, I believe, Friday, I want to say? There's been some cool stuff shown. They're doing stuff with the moon. They're doing stuff, no spoilers. They're doing stuff with the moon. There's a new class. We're getting the naming ways. It's awesome. Male Viera are going to be added at some point. Female, I can't remember what they're called. Female Bobs are going to be added to the setting. That's neat. Haven't read it yet, Federation Builder. Haven't had time to. Old Charlayan is going to be added in, and there's going to be Underground City. It's also very cool. I should also mention the new... I mean, they're effectively Ronzo. They don't call them Ronzo, but yeah. There's a new class. I mentioned that in brief. This is when I discuss the specifics of the class and the nature of how it plays and everything it does and how it functions and how it's going to vary from the other classes. But so far, the only thing I know about the class is that it exists and that it uses a scythe. So there's been a lot of FF4 references in Endwalker, Mr. Imperial Star Destroyer. So your guess is as good as mine. It's a melee DPS class, I'll tell you that much, which is a little bit unfortunate, actually, in my opinion. I think there's plenty of other directions they could and should have gone with a new class, but that's just me. Is that it? Oh, yeah. So this isn't quite a full topic, but Europa Universalis 4's game director came out and apologized for the recent Leviathan DLC. For those of you not aware of the specifics, the recent Leviathan DLC was unacceptably buggy. There's other issues, but I think that's the one thing we can objectively point to and say this is a problem and was unacceptable. So, he came out and apologized about it. Okay, that's cool. They're going to be patching the game to try and fix all of this mess, which they are currently on schedule to do so sometime by June. Which is... Now, that's not the topic, weirdly enough. One of the things I've been doing a lot in the last several years of my life is studying the behind-the-scenes of how stuff is constructed. Mostly video games, but also television for the Star Trek stuff, and movies for the Friday Ruminations. And I've noticed a trend, and this reminded me of this trend. I keep meaning to talk about it, it keeps not coming up. But this reminded me of this trend, and the trend is very simple. Okay, imagine for a moment, use your imagination. Think about, let's make up a game. I don't have any of the Pen Adventure 3, okay? Now, Pen Adventure 3 is coming out in the future. It's coming out a month from now, or a week from now, or a year from now, it doesn't matter. And it's in the future right now, so you are the game developer slash marketer slash CEO slash business person. Now, what are you saying about this upcoming Pen game? I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, because what you are saying is universally positive. It may or may not be an outright lie, it may or may not be a fabrication, it may or may not be misleading or deceptive, but one way or another, everything that is coming out of your mouth and everything that's been going into every interview about this Pen game is positive. Then the Pen game comes out and it has some issues. Now, it doesn't have to be trash, it doesn't have to be like Ride to Hell Retribution, but there are issues with this game when it finally comes out, okay? So the game comes out, and the moment the game comes out, actually, statistically speaking, it's usually about a week after it comes out, but pretty much, it's like a flag is lifted. Because all of a sudden, all those exact same people are entirely capable of speaking about the game, not only in a substantially greater depth, but in a far more negative light. Oh, we screwed up this. Oh, I always knew it was going to be a problem. And that's another key thing. Almost always you'll see these people, especially developers, speak about, yeah, we knew this was going to be a problem walking into it. Yes, we knew this was going to be an issue. Yes, we knew this was going to be a flaw. Oh, I dropped the ball because I was busy with such and such and yada yada. I was yelling at the team because I was going through a messy divorce. All these are specific examples I'm coming up with here from various games I've seen this from. It's a weirdly common thing to happen. I'm not sure if there's just some unspoken rule that people follow. Yeah, it's not quite a legal contract, or maybe there is actually a legal contract I'm unaware of. But again, this applies to movies, television, and games equally. And I have seen this constantly for decades at this point, especially as I've started digging into things in far more depth than I used to. Now, on the one hand, you're probably thinking, Lord, duh. You don't want to hurt the sales as it's coming out. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who has a problem with that? I'm the developer who, unless there was some actual legally binding contract, would probably be like, yeah, this is rough. We're having a hell of a development cycle right now. Like, I'm worried about how this is coming out, and I'm worried about how this is going to be. That's the kind of thing I would be saying before it came out. But you don't see people do this. It's really strange. I mean, you don't have to say our game is crap. It's just... Why? And of course, it's totally okay for everyone to yammer on about whatever afterwards, because it's out now. You know, the initial sales have happened, and it's whatever, right? Who cares? We've already made our initial week, because statistically speaking, all movies, shows, and games tend to get the ridiculous majority, like 95% of their sales tend to happen within the first week. That's not an exaggeration. You could look up the figures on that. So it makes a degree of horrible, like, just sense in a, let's call it evil way, because I do think this is legitimately a malicious act, to go ahead and just stay quiet about everything until it comes out, and then once we've got your money, okay, now we can be honest about it. I mean, maybe this is just me, but that literally sounds like a scam. Imagine for a moment, thank you, Zachariah Jebediah, very much, as always. Imagine for a moment that you went to a restaurant, and like everything about going into the restaurant is like, it's going to be this great food. And then you get the food, and it's crap, and the manager... This has actually happened to me now I'm thinking about it. The manager comes by and says, I'm very sorry that your food was crap. Why is this acceptable? I'm sorry. Well, see, that's an interesting question, Nero says. The answer is yes in some cases. Let's assume... Let's imagination ourselves for a moment here. Let's assume for a moment that Cyberpunk's devs and people were, before the game came out, said, we're having issues. And they said, you know, because of the fact that we're pushing this onto multiple consoles, the console games development is taking a lesser priority to the PC game, and so we're still working on patches and we're still working on bugs, but it's going to come out in a buggy state. Now, I don't actually have statistics, and indeed statistics do not exist for this fictional scenario, of how much saying that would actually hurt sales. I have no idea. I can only answer for myself. Would that prevent me from buying the game? No. In fact, that would make me more inclined to buy the game. If you remember, one of the things that I tended to talk about for over a year before Cyberpunk came out was how troubling the information coming out of CD Projekt Red was. You remember this? I talked about this constantly. I talked about this in unrelated streams, for God's sakes. Because everything they were saying was a scam. It was a scam. Let's call it what it is. It was people lying or deceiving or simply not sharing information specifically to try to drum up initial sales. And that made me more and more and more and more hesitant to buy the game. I should probably mention that if it wasn't for the show, I wouldn't have bought the game at launch. Because of the build-up. Because of the fact that they were so clearly lying. Now again, that's just me. I cannot speak for other people. I cannot speak for greater sales. I mean, we live in a world in which the best-selling film of all time is Avatar, for God's sakes. So, I have no idea how much of a financial impact this would have. But this is such a monstrously common trend that I don't even know what to say about this. There's actually several things. I've talked about it before, Act. It's like 5 or 6 different things combined. Multiple release runs, 3D tickets, etc., etc. I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry for ranting, because this is basically just a rant at this point. But it is such a damned common thing that it actually kind of pisses me off. And again, seeing that EU4 game director talking about this after the DLC came up just reminded me of all that. It's like, you knew walking into this. Oh, yes. If you actually... Here, I'll pull up the post. Give me a second. Hang on. I should have delayed the project until we had all the resources that were needed. AKA, you knew walking into this that you didn't have all the resources that were needed. I needed to have time to properly onboard the resources to the project. And yet that means you knew that. We should have announced a break of development after the Emperor release. Which means you knew that walking in, and you get my point. Apologies. You've heard the old saying, what's better? Seeking permission or asking for forgiveness? Now, obviously, my answer to that tends to vary wildly depending on the specific case, because that's just me. But there seems to be a near universal trend when it comes to companies and the entertainment industry in general to seek forgiveness rather than to seek permission. And of course, everyone in chat who has cynically pointed out the truth has pretty much pointed out exactly, what I have already mentioned, that this is for purely financial scam reasons, because this is a scam. Thank you, the Count, very, very much. I will put that towards dealer's choice. Thank you. Don't worry, my stream's not a scam. I hope it's not a scam. If it's a scam, then I've got some Tyler Durden thing going on, you know what I mean? The scam runner. Now, I'll tell you what a scam would be. The Lorecrafts series is going perfectly, and it's going to come out next week. The whole series will be done, and then we'll be right back to streaming, and everything will be perfect in every way. See, that would be a lie. That would be a complete lie. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to finish the Lorecraft series within the next month. I would be astonished if I finished the Lorecraft series within the next month. And I've been doing some really good work with it. Like, I've very much streamlined the work. But some episodes take absolutely forever. I'll give you a specific example of that real quick. Thank you very, very much, Johnny Bigby. Always appreciate those subs. Thank you. If you know where you want to put that, please let me know. So the Wrath videos, hang on. Where's my, I'll give you the exact list. So I got it right here. So the Wrath videos go, let me get my cigar. There we go. So the first Wrath video is going to be about the Lich Kings. I say it's going to be, I've already finished it. It's a video all about what the Lich Kings are, what the Scourge is, most of that stuff that happened in Warcraft 3 and Frozen Throne, right? It's all backstory, okay? So that's episode 1. Episode 2 is about the Titan Forge. This one was a monumental pain to get footage for, because if you know anything about the Titans and the Old Gods, you know that it's all over the frickin' place. Physically, as in. I had to capture footage from 5 separate expansions and every continent in order to do that video. That took forever. But then we got to the next video, which I simply title Northrend, right? That's going to be the third Wrath video. Again, I keep using past tense. I've already finished it. The Northrend video. So, the Northrend video, I talk about Mass Effect 2. You got it. Done. The Northrend video, I talk about the Vrykul. I talk about Utgard Keep and Utgard Pinnacle. So that's 2 dungeons. Then I switch over to talking about the Kvaldir. I also talk about the Tuskar, the North Sea Freebooters. I always stumble over that for some reason. I've already gotten plenty of footage from Shadowlands, Mr. Red. Like, several bits. In fact, the video I'm editing today about the Drakari will be using footage from Ardenweald. Anyways, then I switched over to the Grizzly Hills. I talk about Arugal. Then I start talking about the political behind-the-scenes problems that are happening at this point historically with Garrosh, as well as his forces, and the bajillion subs I just got. I'm just going to keep talking here before I acknowledge all those, because I don't want to lose my train of thought. Then I talk about Noxoramus. That was actually relatively brief, despite the fact that Noxoramus is this gargantuan, multi-boss, huge raid. There's actually very, very little lore for Noxoramus. That was just a quick one. Then I had to talk about Kel'Thuzad in totality, because that's the best place to talk about Kel'Thuzad. Then I talk about Wormrest Temple, the Obsidian Sanctum, the Ruby Sanctum, so that's 2 raids. And then I had to talk about Dita, that's the Druids for ethical and humane treatment of animals. Herald Lane, I actually referenced that earlier. Hemet, Nessingwary, the Sholazar Basin, the Frenzy Heart, and the Oracles. All of that was one video. Technically, yes, Mr. Red, but I'm kind of treating it as not, because it matters so little that it's only relevant for a single quest chain that is Alliance exclusive, I might add. Now, I bring all this up because this huge chunk of miscellaneous is all the miscellaneous story arcs from across Northrend, from across the Wrath expansion. After this, we have more focused things, like the Drakari. That's the episode I'm working on today. I'm mostly done with it. Then we have the Malagos thing, the Yogg-Saron thing, the Forsaken thing. Then we have the Death Knights, and then we have Icecrown, the Scourge, right? I bring all this up because that episode sucked to put together. And I have no problem telling you that, because that's the truth. The Northrend episode was gargantuan. And I kept thinking about new things. It's like, oh shoot, I need to mention such and such. Like, in the middle of it, I realized, oh crap, I completely forgot to mention Hemet Nessingwary, since I already mentioned Hemet Nessingwary in both the vanilla video and the Nagrin video, so I need to keep that trend going, since he's going to show up again in Pandaria and Warlords. I gotta keep... Oh, and Legion. He shows up in Legion as well. And I have to keep those trends going. It's just... So I have no problem telling you I'm having trouble development time. I'm not going to blow smoke certain places in order to try and sugarcoat it. I'm going to tell you the truth. I hope that you actually appreciate that, because I have no way of knowing that other than by simply presuming or asking. Apparently, this is the wrong thing to do, according to the greater corporate world, so what the hell do I know? Thank you, Gozai, very, very, very much. Always appreciate very much. Thank you. I will put all those towards one of the tour runs. Probably Jedi Knight. Unless that's unacceptable. I mean, you say that, Larian. I don't know. I feel like there's something wrong with our species if it is considered the correct thing to do to lie to people. Make of that what you will. What is that? This much. And thank you, XM, very much. I will put that towards Final Fantasy XIV and Endwalker. Absolutely. You know, I've had a lot of economic theories for a few years, decades at this point, about how to restructure our current economic systems. I think it could work. I have no proof, obviously. I can't prove a theory, not without actually doing it. And obviously, I don't have Q-like powers. But I really do think we could have an economic structure that doesn't... isn't this? I don't know how to summarize that. That isn't this. Thank you, Daniel Dort. Very much appreciate, as always. I will put that towards Legend of Legaia. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. Today Today we're actually covering an episode about lying. Oh yeah, can I say something real quick? Last thing, and then I'll chop off Loreweek. So speaking about being honest, how many of you? Let me rewind that. If you had to pick your favorite series of ruminations that I've done thus far, which would you pick, and if applicable, why? Feel free to be brutally honest. You could say none of them. You could say just this one because there was a funny hat in the background. You could say, I hate your voice. Stop talking. Why are you there? You could say whatever, as long as you're honest. Streaminations count, yes, sorry. I should have clarified. Anything that isn't a game stream is what I'm actually referencing. That is my fault. I should clarify, because obviously I personally distinguish streaminations and ruminations, even though the structure is very clear, very clearly the same between the two. Just reading answers here, don't mind me. Anyone want to hear my favorites? I've got two. They're tied. The Lore Daddies. That was just... Alright, Hazardous. Just for you. I don't have a knife in here. I got a back scratcher. If I jab really hard... I mean, it's wood, right? You know, get splinters in there. If I just... My favorite rumination series that I've ever worked on are Star Trek the original series. I know that one's hard for you to judge because it's barely out yet, and it will be going live for the next, like, year and a half. But there's also so much to talk about, and I learned so much about the creation of television, about the specific roles and structure of, you know, actually practically making stuff happen. And my opinion of Gene Roddenberry plummeted. My opinion of other people went up substantially. You know, it was such a fantastic, wonderful work, and I feel like I did a really good job presenting the work. Obviously, I'm sure people will disagree because it's TOS. I've already gotten plenty of people disagreeing on the comments, which is cool. But my other one is the My Little Pony Streaminations. Because to be completely blunt, I have had so much more to talk about in the MLP Streaminations than most of the things I've ever covered in my life. We have delved into efforts of personal psychology, of group dynamics, of social currency. We have discussed the nature of military and its function in society. We have talked about aspects of trade. We have talked about aspects of interaction between different species and the natural biases that come up as a result of that. The sheer number of topics that MLP has endeavored us to cover. We've covered suicide more than once. We've covered death more than once. There is so much to discuss there, it's been blowing my mind, legitimately. I didn't anticipate that, it's worth noting. Oh, I always knew MLP had stuff to cover. That's why I allowed it. That's why I said it was cool to cover. But it's interesting the sheer breadth and depth of content there has been to dissect when it comes to My Little Pony. And if that truth bothers anyone, the door's over there. Because unlike some people, I'm not really fond of lying. And on that bombshell... Oh yeah, I also like Top Gear, while we're on the subject. I guess I should say liked? No, I guess present tense works. It's still a good show. There's still episodes of Top Gear that I enjoy watching. I think I've mentioned this before. The first episode of Top Gear I ever saw was when they crossed the English Channel in a truck. Hell of a way to start with that show, let me tell you. Hell of a way. Anyways, I am going to go ahead and chop off the local recording.